This is One Sentence News, a daily podcast featuring 3 news stories with a sentence-long summary and 1 sentence of context apiece. I'm Colin Wright. This is a sponsored message. I've been using Anchor as my podcast host for a while now, and it's been a pleasure to use. Anchor offers benefits that most other hosts do not. It's free to use, but it also has a collection of tools that allow you to create a podcast completely within the Anchor website or smartphone app. They distribute your show to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the other distribution channels without any additional effort on your part, and you can make money from your podcast without any minimum audience size. So you can use it as a more traditional podcast host like I do, but it's also got everything you need to start a podcast from scratch. If you're keen to give it a shot, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. It's Monday, August 15th, 2022. Let's talk about the news. From Reuters, South Korea's Yoon pardons Samsung's Lee to counter, quote, economic crisis, unquote. The vice chairman of Samsung, J.Y. Lee, has been pardoned by South Korean President Yoon in a largely symbolic gesture the country's justice minister has said would help South Korea overcome a, quote, national economic crisis, end quote. Lee was already out on parole after 18 months in jail for bribery that spiraled into a scandal that led to the previous South Korean president's downfall in 2017. But this pardon will allow Lee to operate with fewer restrictions on his movements and actions, and could lead to more investments for Samsung, which the country's economy is heavily reliant upon, and which hasn't been doing great in the midst of local and global inflation, demand, consumer sentiment, and spending issues. Shin Dong-bin, the chairman of another massive South Korean conglomerate, Lotte Group, was also pardoned of his bribery charges by Yoon with the same economic justification. From the Associated Press, shippers prepare for worst as Rhine levels near critical low. Germany's biggest and most shipping-heavy river, the Rhine, has a depth of 14.6 inches, which is about 37 centimeters, at some measuring sites as of Saturday, which is problematic for many reasons, but most immediately, it's not ideal because larger vessels cannot traverse the Rhine if this level falls below 15.7 inches, or about 40 centimeters. That low depth is not consistent throughout the Rhine, and the most vital shipping lane on the river is still 59 inches, or about 150 centimeters deep. But travel becomes trickier the shallower it becomes, and even light vessels cannot safely travel the river when it gets below 14 inches, or 35 centimeters, while 11.8 inches, or 30 centimeters, is considered to be an unusable depth, at which point trade and travel on the river essentially ceases. Several trading and logistics companies operating on the Rhine, which is a major artery for raw and finished trade goods throughout Germany, are already planning for delays and shortages as a result of this drought-amplified issue. And though rain is forecast for the area this week, it's suspected this may remain an issue for a while, as many European countries are facing water-related problems at the moment. And from the Wall Street Journal, polio virus detected in New York City sewage. The virus that causes polio, which is often asymptomatic or causes only flu-like symptoms, but which can in some cases cause permanent paralysis of the legs and arms, and even infect the brain or spinal cord, killing the host, has been found in sewage samples in New York City, suggesting the virus is circulating locally there. This virus has been confirmed in a patient in Rockland County, north of New York City, has also recently been detected in sewage in London and Israel, and would seem to be stemming from unvaccinated communities in these areas. Polio is typically spread through contact with an infected person's feces, and folks who contract it are usually contagious for somewhere between 2 and 8 weeks. A decades-long effort to eradicate polio using vaccines wiped it out pretty much everywhere, but efforts to kill it off completely in some regions were paused when COVID-19 hit, and it's thought this reemergence might be the consequence of that pause, plus a resurgence in ideological vaccine hesitancy within some political and faith-based groups. If you're finding some value in One Sentence News, consider leaving a quick review wherever you get your podcasts and or sharing the show with a friend. You can find out more about this show or subscribe to the email version at onesentencenews.com. And you can support this and other related projects, like the Let's Know Things and Brain Lenses podcasts, at understandery.com.